As we're off racing here for Moto number 2 for Pro-Am Women's Ski. So Kanamori trying to defend that title, Dave, but it's not going to be easy on the heels of a poor finish back in Moto number 1. And it looks like Rachel McCluggage comes clear of the rest of the field, and she might record the whole shot. And that's really saying something, Dave, because she hasn't been a factor in years past in terms of trying to win a world title. But she did finish third back in the opening Moto, so she'll have a good chance to run for a world title here in the second Moto.
Well, we're not seeing some of the suspects that we saw here in Moto number 1 that are up front other than Rachel McCluggage. She seems to be the one that escaped it. Anya Colley got, a lousy start there. I was really surprised. She's usually so good with that start, but, now she's got a lot of work for her with a Moto 1 win, and Rachel had a third in Moto number 1. That's going to change things up.
And for Anya Cully from Great Britain, after recording that opening Moto win, looks like she checks out in 4th place, so that's not a good sign for Anya Cully. So it shows you it's a tale of 2 races, Dave. You have to put together a very solid opening Moto, and then you have to do much the same in your second Moto. And for Anya Cully, a poor start has relegated her all the way to 4th place, so she needs to make up 1 position, although we're early on, to be the front runner in terms of winning a world title here in the women's class. And you can see everybody else just trying to sort it out on the race course there, as everybody else is left far behind our leaders who are already making their way along the back stretch.
Well, I see Yukiko Kume and Bridget Poper back there. They're dicing it out a little bit. Some top runners that are struggling right now. And I tell you, if you don't get out in front and get that smooth water, you can see when you get into this right-hand side section, it gets choppy, it gets rough. But then again, on the back straightaway, it's a lot smoother than we ever seen. So this is not a typical water condition that we're seeing for this type of racing.
And for Rachel McCluggage, she's the other half of the McCluggage racing family. Her husband, Chris, a 13-time overall world champion and a member of the Hall of Fame. So Rachel looking for her first world title of her racing career, but she has her hands full with a lot of top competitors as we focus in for the first time on Emi Kanamori, your defending world champion. And Dave, she's the other half of another rich racing family. Her husband, Minoru, instrumental in many of the things we see out there on the race course, primarily with Kawasaki.
Yeah, Minoru Kanamori, I'll tell you, man, he is one man that has really pushed this sport forward. He really was key in developing this Kawasaki 800 ski, which has revolutionized the stand-up class. Of course, we've had other boats come out since then, but this is still Kawasaki's premier boat. Now, another thing, the runabout program, he was really instrumental bringing in like the superchargers and really changing things up. And, it's great to see that they still have this passion and this love come out here. He really doesn't so much compete at this level. We did see him out there a little bit, but it's all about Emi Kanamori right now and her trying to chase down a second world title.
And that's the key for Emi Kanamori as she tries to hold off Anya Cully, who won the opening Moto. So Kanamori in that 3rd spot. And our leader now is Yuki Kurahashi, who was able to get past Rachel McCluggage, but Rachel probably said, hey, it's not important for me to try to hold off the hard-charging Kurahashi, who's got nothing to lose, because remember, back in the opening Moto, it was Kurahashi who went for broke along the backstretch and lost her ski, lost a lot of valuable time as she had to swim for it, and didn't have a particularly good finish, so she has nothing to lose and won't be a factor in terms of an overall for a world title, so she can basically take off and leave the rest of the field. But Rachel McCluggage, most importantly, has to focus on Anya Cully and also Magume Yamashita. Those are the 2 that she needs to hold off if she wants to win her first ever world championship.
Yeah, and also don't forget Emi Kanamori too, also could be a factor. She needs to get up there, and I wouldn't count her out one bit. But Rachel McCluggage is riding her race right now. She's looking really comfortable. I know her and Chris have been training like the mad couple for all season long. They've gone to every race that you could imagine, whether it's here in the U.S. or in Europe. They've tried to, just stay on top of their game. I've seen Rachel make leaps and bounds in her riding ability, and it's really showing, and their training has paid off right now.
And one of the defining moments this season for Rachel McCluggage came from a race when she went head-to-head against Emi Kanamori and actually defeated her. And it's bloomed into a great rivalry between the 2. They don't necessarily talk much or hang out a lot, but still, it's a great rivalry. And I think more importantly, Rachel McCluggage gained a lot of confidence because she was able to prove to herself that she was able to beat the reigning world champion in the women's class. And I think we're seeing it pay off today because she's able to hold off Emi Kanamori. But talk about the mental side, because you have to be both mentally strong as well as physically strong to compete at the top level.
Yeah, and also another thing is your equipment's got to hold together, and that's so important. And I know Rachel has the Mac Racing support with her and her husband Chris. They have a great shop here in Lake Havasu, Mac Racing. you know, working on a lot of the performance, working with the Yamaha, making some of these stand-ups come out here and really run well. But also you got the support with Amy Kanamori coming in with Minoru Kanamori working for Kawasaki. And, you know, when it comes down to it, there's not much you could really do with these limited, but making sure everything is perfect and the attention to detail. And that's what a lot of these ladies and the rest of the ladies out here, you have to be so particular the way your setup is.
And Rachel McCluggage making the turn through the splits, and you can see how the top 5 riders, you can basically throw a blanket over them. They're so close in terms of where they are on the race course now. And you can see Anya Cully has lost a spot on the race course. She has now been dropped to 5th place, Dave, so I'm not sure if she's shaking her head there in disgust or maybe trying to shake some water off her goggles, but she clearly is not a happy camper out there on the race course because she's going the wrong way, Dave. She needs to finish 3rd or better to win a world title. Now she's all the way back in 5th place, so her hopes and dreams of winning her first ever world title, well, they're slowly dimming here in the second moto for women's ski. Talk about this women's division, because this is the top division for women in terms of ski, in terms of being the fastest and the biggest, and we're seeing the best and the brightest on the women's side competing out here from all over the world.
Well, this is the limited class out here. You know, they're limited to basically bolt-on parts. They can't do any internal motor work. There's a lot of, you know, pipes and heads could be changed. They could change the expansion, but nothing to the crank or the pistons. They're limited on the board to 800 cc's. So very limited on that, but it comes down to handling packages. You know, the setup of the ride plate, the scoop grate, the impeller, which is like the prop inside the boat that drives it. All these things play into a nice formula for that rider style, and, you know, having it just right is so important where you're comfortable out there.
Amy Kanamori back in that 3rd spot. Amy Kanamori, last year's world champion, not going away in this one, as Yamashita is back there in that 4th position. So a pair of Japanese riders, 3rd and 4th here, with Anya Cully back in that 5th spot. So Cully, after winning the opening moto, back in 5th, she needs to move up at least 2 spots to run for a world title. And with the laps quickly winding down, it doesn't appear that Anya Cully has what it takes to get past the 2 Japanese riders to get in that 3rd spot and to challenge for a world title. With the white flag out, so 1 lap to go. But in short, Dave, if you don't get a good start, it's going to be tough to make up that distance on the race course.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it done before, but with this, you know, many top-level competitors, I doubt it's going to happen. 1 lap to go right now. Of course, our leader, she's just, you know, not a factor. Now it's all about Rachel McCluggage staying in that spot. Can Anya, like you said, make up that distance? Very doubtful. Amy Kanamori, was she in striking distance? Not really. It's coming down to the math is going to favor Rachel McCluggage on that Mac Racing Monster Energy.
But I'm not sure people would have thought Rachel McCluggage would be your world champion here in 2009.
You know what? Watching her all year long, I can tell you she's a very talented rider, and I'm sure Chris has taught her a few tricks, but she's been racing for quite a few years. She's no newbie to this. They both met in the watercraft industry, actually racing side of it, and they're both racers, and she is her own individual person, and she earned this one. So when it comes down to it, this world title is all McCluggage. We're going to have to say she's the champion of the family right now.
And crossing the finish line first will be Yuki Kurahashi, making amends for crashing her boat and having to swim for it back in Moto number 1. Not a factor in terms of winning an overall for a world title, but Rachel McCluggage, she will be your world champion in Pro-Am Women's Ski for 2009. You do the math, a 3rd place showing back in Moto 1, couple that with a 2nd place showing here in Moto number 2. That's good enough for the world title, and nothing but disappointment for Anya Cully, staring a world championship in the eye, but a 5th place showing here in Moto number 2 is not going to cut it after her opening win. And look at this, Dave, a great scene here on the beach in Lake Havasu City.
And we see Chris McCluggage, her husband, giving her that shoulder ride over to her dad, Bob Crabtree. He's got to be stoked for her too. And all of our race crew here, one big family. Everybody's just so stoked for our new world champion, Rachel McCluggage. And I'll tell you what, she earned that.
And let's now take a look at the overall results for Pro-Am Women's Ski. Rachel McCluggage, your 2009 world champion.
I just want to say thank you to my husband, Chris McCluggage, and I'm in shock.
All right. And tell me a little bit about that race, and did you know where you were when you came across the finish line?
No, I honestly thought that I'd taken 2nd place overall. I didn't realize I'd won.
Good for you. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, put your hands together for our 2009 Pro Women World Titleist.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anya Colley. I'm 5 times world champion. I represent England, and you're watching the IJSBA World Finals.